We are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Report. And we are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Report. I am your host, Brian Barnaby. And let's just say the boys are back in town.
She got away. Know what I say? She can't joke. She don't know what to do.
She's gotta go. Bye. I know that you love this flow. We just chillin', we just villains. We just chillin', we some villains.
I love it up. Get the ammo and I stick it up. I grab shots on the top of shots. I bust the clip and I let it dip. I make it poof, make it explode. Touch your toes, hit your nose. Can you touch your toes?
And we are back here on a Throwback Monday, ready to recap the weekend that was. We got Renee on the other side of the glass. We got
Hello.
Manny. We got Shanna.
Oh, yeah.
How's everyone doing?
Doing good, Bars. How you doing?
Pretty good. You know, I mean, if the Jets maybe took care of business, I'd be doing a little better. But I'm sure
Rough weekend for NFL. Let's just say that.
you could say the same for the Steelers, right? I mean, halftime lead,
yeah.
couldn't get it done.
I mean, there was what? Actually, we'll get into it when we get into the.
Yes, exactly. Rangers back in the win column. MLB free agency rolls along. But let's start now in the world of the National Football League.
6 for 101, 2 touchdowns. To Evans, touchdown, Tampa Bay. How about that throw? Sam Darnold blasted. Oh my goodness, did he take a hit? In trouble, what? Brings him down. Loft one for Odell Beckham Jr. Got it down, touchdown.
All right. The Sunday that was, and unfortunately for the New York Jets, for the 14th straight game against the New England Patriots, they fall 10-3 in a game where their defense played great. The only touchdown was on a punt return, an 84-yarder from Marcus Jones to win the game for the New England Patriots. And just what a wasted effort and what an embarrassing effort when you think about the offense here. Absolutely nothing, whether it's running, whether it's throwing, and Zach Wilson missing receivers left and right in front of him. Really just looked like a deer in headlights out there. And the fact, too, that there's no accountability. Me and Tony talk about this all the time in regards to the Rangers, with Gallant and just some of the stuff that they're doing, and as well as the Yankees at times. But for Zach to say that the offense didn't let him down, it's like, bro, you threw for 77 yards, and you're the starting quarterback supposed to be Zach Wilson.
I don't even know football,
Wilson.
And that sounds atrocious.
3.5 yards an attempt. That's one of the lower yards per attempt I've ever seen. And we have a couple comments here, Renee, if you wouldn't mind.
Whoa. We got Mike saying the worst loss in 14 years. Mrs. Materiello, hi Barnes, your cheesecake is en route.
Ooh, that means Tony's en route also.
We're excited
buddy.
for that.
Excited.
Zach made me tight with his comments post game.
And that's what I alluded to. No accountability and just no growth out of Zach Wilson. And I know, especially we know the situation is troubling if Michael is tight because, he's always been a big advocate for Zach. And I'm not going to say at certain times this year, there haven't been some good moments that he's had. But this is absolute rock bottom. And I just feel like if you can't do simple things, as far as throws that are 5 yards in front of you, then maybe this is too much for you. And if it were up to me, this game next week, and we'll see what happens with Justin Fields. He left the end of that game with the Falcons with a shoulder injury, but I think you got to take a look at Mike White. He's a loser. just to get somebody to move the ball. Renee having fun with the bites. But, you just got to have somebody that is capable, can make throws. I mean, Joe Flacco, listen, I mean, he's no, league MVP, Super Bowl MVP anymore. But, at least he could hit open receivers. And it's just, there's no ability for Zach Wilson to step up into the pocket. But listen, I've been as patient as anybody when it comes to Zach Wilson, but I'm all done. Honestly, he's just beat me to a pulp. I think he's worse than Darnold. He's worse than Sanchez. He's just not an NFL quarterback, and it's a shame. It's another wasted high draft pick, but I think it's
Wilson?
just best to just move on because there was just too many moments in this game. I mean, first of all, your defense almost pitches a shutout. You allow 3 points, and I know, they had that punt return at the end of the game, but I mean, come on. I mean, what more do you want them to do? And then there's some talk about clipping during that play, but it's like, it doesn't matter. 3 points is pathetic, and you don't deserve to be on an NFL roster if you're having that type of game. And it'll be interesting to see if, he walks back his comments. He was pretty stern with them after the game, kind of defending himself, but there's nothing to defend here. This is just an absolute joke. So we'll see. I mean, luckily for the Jets, they are 6-4. So you have 7 games left. Can you win 5 of them? I mean, you probably, will take 4-3, but which would get you to 10-7, which is light years ahead of where you expected to be at the beginning of this year. But it's just not good. It's just not good because you're wasting, there's a lot of talent on this field. And I think you're in danger of Robert Saleh, who's done a pretty good job this year, of losing the locker room if you're going to just continue to stick by Zach when he's absolutely not producing whatsoever. So that'll be a situation to monitor. But we will have to wait till year 8 now to see if we can finally beat the New England Patriots next season, barring any type of playoff matchup. I mentioned the Bears at the Falcons. The Falcons get their 5th win of the season here, 27-24, now a half game behind Tampa for first place in the NFC South. The Bears, like they have recently, showing a lot more signs of life on offense. They were right in this game till the end, but just not enough as, they fall to 3-8. And it's just tough because Fields had another good game, 85 yards rushing and a touchdown, but he's putting himself in harm's way so much, just run, 18 carries. That's a lot for a quarterback. So maybe they'll give, Montgomery and the other running backs more carries to kind of give himself a break. But, he passed for $153 and found Darnell Mooney for a touchdown. And as far as the Falcons are concerned, very vanilla attack as far as the passing is concerned. But Mariota, he wasn't sacked, didn't turn the ball over, threw for 131 yards, threw 1 touchdown. I mean, that's the type of effort we need out of Zach. And it's hard to, how do you argue the fact that you probably would be 10 times better off with Marcus Mariota, who was one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league, because at least he can move the ball. And we're just not seeing this out of the Jets. And listen, I don't mean to be negative. It's been a great year, but I think us as fans, we show so much loyalty here. And when a product's unacceptable at any part of the team, you got to just fix it. So you hope that they do that. We saw the Bills rebound from back-to-back losses with a 31-23 victory over the Browns in Detroit. So nice for them to get that win and be tied with the Dolphins for first place in the AFC East. Josh Allen, though, 197, a touchdown, only ran for 7 yards. So still kind of not having the games that you'd expect, but luckily for them, James Cook and Devin Singletary had their best rushing efforts of the season, both actually coincidentally enough rushing for 86 yards. So as a team, 171, 5.2 yards a carry and a score. So they go to 7-3. The Browns, they played them tough here. Brissett, not bad, 28-41. Here's another guy that I think the Jets wish they had a quarterback. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked just once. And Amari Cooper looked great, 2 touchdowns and had 113 yards receiving. So as they sit at 3-7, waiting to get Deshaun Watson back. Their season pretty much over, but we'll see what they're able to do once Watson comes back. Almost had the surprise of the day, but the Eagles at the last second pull ahead to defeat the Colts 17-16.
Wow.
You were watching that one, weren't you, Renee?
I actually wasn't watching that one.
Yeah, wow. No, I'm just kidding. But Saturday they were running the ball efficiently, but just the defense at the end, they just couldn't make a stop. Jalen Hurts finds that gap to rush it into the end zone. He had 86 on the ground, threw for 190 in the air, was sacked 3 times. They sacked Matt Ryan 4 times. Didn't turn him over, but did enough on that end. And the Eagles 9-1 is 9-1. So you take that any day of the week. With that win, they sit pretty well in terms of the NFC East, and we'll get to them in a second. But they pick up an extra game on the Giants with their loss, but just kind of stay even in terms of their lead on the Cowboys after their big win. But like I said, we'll get to that in a second.
We got a comment if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
From Buffer, your thoughts on John Mellencamp caught on camera sitting during the national anthem at Colts versus Eagles game?
Anybody know who that is?
I have no idea who that is.
Never heard. No idea. Who is it?
John Mellencamp.
Is he a singer? John Mellencamp might be a singer.
Let us know, Buffer. What's going on?
He is a singer, but I don't know who he is. So just one of those things, Buffer.
Doesn't have to do with sports.
It doesn't have to do with sports. And it's like at the end of the day, does it change my life? I don't know.
It does not.
So continuing on, Buffer, I know you like to get off course, but I was just going to say Eagles, 9-1. In control of their own destiny here. Colts 4-6-1. Pretty much would have to run the table to make the playoffs. The Saints finally get a win here, 27-20. So the Rams, defending Super Bowl champs, season over at 3-7. They fall 27-20. Saints go to 4-7. Andy Dalton had a pretty good game, 21 out of 25, 3 touchdowns. Didn't throw an interception, but I just can't believe with Stafford back and he ended up leaving the game later on that they lost this game. I mean, it's just like, are they in for a complete rebuild? We've seen these years of them trade away draft picks, go for higher price veterans. Is that finally catching up with them? Time will tell. But definitely a nice win for the Saints, and their season's probably over, but at least, you get to look at like Chris Olave, the rookie wide receiver, 102 yards and a score. Juwan Johnson and Jarvis Landry also had touchdowns for the Saints, and it'd be interesting to see at the quarterback position. I mean, now that 4-7, I mean, I guess they want to just leave Dalton out there, but I would see what you have in Jameis Winston, but I guess that's their prerogative. The Lions blow out the Giants, and this is one that I feel I hit right on the head. Tony was very anxious to pick the Giants last week, but I just said, I mean, it's like they've been rolling along. They've caught every break possible. There's going to be a game where they disappoint, and in the 31-18 defeat at home to a football team like the Lions, who had 3 wins coming into the game, didn't even throw for 200 yards through the air, but they let up 4 rushing touchdowns, 3 to Jamal Williams, 1 to DeAndre Swift, as well as 160 yards on the ground. So defense didn't step up. Daniel Jones, we saw him revert back to that turnover machine that he's been the last couple of years with 2 interceptions. Did throw for 341. Wan'Dale Robinson, the promising rookie wide receiver, he's out for the year with an ACL. So insult to injury for the Giants, but 7-3. So their season obviously very much so alive. Just a disappointing loss, and the whole thing is you got to bounce back, and it's a short turnaround here as they will face the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Ravens, same old story here. 13-3, but just not impressing once again. Lamar Jackson, 209 yards through the air, an interception. The defense was great, but I mean, it's expected to be great against Baker Mayfield, who threw for 196 and 2 interceptions. Lamar only had 31 yards on the ground, his only touchdown, rushing touchdown. So it's an ugly win against a Panthers team you feel like the Ravens are so much better against. So I guess the good thing for them is, they're clearly going through a little bit of a drought, a little bit of a rut here, but they're getting wins. So, if they're able to really turn it up here down the stretch, maybe they can finally solve that postseason riddle. That's just been really an issue for the Ravens with Lamar Jackson and Jim Harbaugh, that, they'll have good regular seasons. Once they get to the playoffs, they kind of don't show up. So we'll see if they're able to get their offense going. One of the hottest teams in the NFL, the Washington Commanders, 23-10 over the Houston Texans. And they go to 6-5 after starting the year 1-4. So you really got to give credit where credit's due. And like I've mentioned many times, this all started with Taylor Heineke taking over for Carson Wentz. So more likable guy leading the way at the quarterback position. And we always talk about our fundamentals, farm system, water, running the football. And that's what Washington did in this game. And, they featured Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. So they run the ball another 40 times. So back-to-back weeks, rushing the ball 40 times, 153 yards and a touchdown. So definitely a strong effort out of them. And they turned over Davis Mills twice, sacking him 5 times. So this was all without Chase Young, who I would imagine would rejoin the team next week. So Washington, you start 1-4, but very much alive here at 6-5, and really one of my sleeper teams in the NFL. I've just mentioned the whole formula here about good defense and running the football. And, listen, Ron Rivera, he definitely catches a lot of slack, but overall, decent body of work as a head coach and obviously as a player in this league, for the Bears back in the day. So listen, it's been impressive. Let's see what they do. Here 11 games into the season. So obviously 6 games remaining. Do they win 4 of them to go 10-7? That should be enough to get you in now with 3 wild cards. We'll see. We saw the Raiders finally return to the win column here. 22-16, a walk-off touchdown by Devontae Adams, who had 7 receptions, 141 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So you think about the past couple weeks, all the criticism that Josh McDaniels, that Derek Carr have had to endure here. Carr played probably his best game of the year. 23-37, didn't turn it over, had 2 touchdowns, was sacked only once. The Raiders.
A little delayed on that one.
On point. Renee.
I'm not as familiar with the soundboard as Tony is.
Tony gets a kick out of it. He gets riled for himself. But Josh Jacobs, 109 yards, 4.5 yards a carry. So they did a good job running the ball. And Russell Wilson, I guess you could give credit to the Raiders for kind of limiting the scoring output for Denver, but that's what they've been all year. No touchdowns for Wilson. He didn't turn it over, sacked 3 times. As far as running the ball, they were decently effective, 94 yards on the ground. But longest run, only 12 yards, kind of grinding it out, but had a chance here in overtime, just couldn't do it. So they fall to 3-7. It's just crazy. You look around the NFL, there are just so many teams that came into this year with very high expectations. You think about the Broncos, you think about the Raiders. Those are 2 that just played in this game. And then, you look at the Browns, 3-7, that's disappointing. You look at the Colts, they were thinking with Matt Ryan, possibly Super Bowl. They only have 4 wins. The Jags were supposed to be much improved. They only have 3 wins. You look at the Green Bay Packers, they were expected to try to go back to a Super Bowl. They only have 4 wins. The Bucs are 500 at 5-5. The Saints are 4-7 after expecting to be competing for a playoff berth. The Rams are 3-7. The Cardinals are 4-6. So really a lot of surprises up and down the standings, and that's why we've just seen so many upsets this year. That unpredictability of the NFL, and of course that's what makes it exciting, but you also, big names, you enjoy seeing them in big spots and succeeding, so it's a little disappointing. And speaking of a big spot, and Kirk Cousins, after rocking the ice last week on the plane back and getting in trouble for having a couple beers on the team plane, They completely lay an egg, get completely embarrassed by the Dallas Cowboys 40-3.
Whoa.
The Vikings came into this game with only one loss at 8-1. They fall to 8-2, obviously. In Dallas, after that disappointing loss last week to Green Bay, they go to 7-3 after this big win. Dak was pulled late because it was such a blowout, but he threw for 2 touchdowns, 11 yards per completion. So really getting the ball downfield. Ezekiel Elliott returned from his 2-game hiatus in terms of missing the last 2 games with a knee injury. Tony Pollard had a great game running and receiving, 109 yards out of the backfield, 2 touchdowns receiving, also ran for 80 yards. And as a team, Dallas ran for 151 yards. They sacked Kirk Cousins 7 times. He was pulled late, only threw for 105 yards. So Dallas showing why they have one of the best teams in the NFL, one of the best defenses. And, come January, they are going to be a very tough out in the playoffs. That is one thing we can say with certainty. And the last game of that 4/25 window, we saw the Bengals 37-30 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers went into the half with a lead, but as you would expect,
Couldn't hold it.
Young quarterback. It's not Big Ben isn't back there, Renee. Kenny Pickett,
Obviously
17 incompletions. So that's going to be tough to win. Only sacked twice, no turnovers. Did have a touchdown, ran for 102 yards on the ground, but Joe Burrow carving up this Pittsburgh defense, 355 through the air, 9 yards of completion, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Hit Samaje Perine for 3 touchdowns. That's a blast from the past, someone we don't really talk about. So he does this. Obviously, Jamar Chase still out, but T. Higgins 9 for 148 and hits Trenton Irwin for a touchdown as well. So like I said, 4 touchdowns overall for Joe Burrow. And they did this despite not really running the ball. 24 carries, only 62 yards. That's 2.6 yards per carry. And then finally, the last game of the day, once again, who else but Patrick Mahomes coming up big here, 30-27.
Wow.
Over the Los Angeles Chargers. So once again, the Chargers coming up small in the big spot, and the Chiefs coming up big in a big spot. What they've done religiously since Patrick Mahomes, came into this league, and what a year he's having. Another 3 touchdowns, 329 yards through the air. Isaiah Pacheco, the rookie out of Rutgers, had 100 yards on the ground. Travis Kelce, 6 catches, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So Mahomes, of course, in sync with his really number one target here, Travis Kelce. Once again, this is a game, though, that was definitely a little bit of a struggle for Kansas City early on. The Chargers really controlled it most of the way, but they were outscored 14-7 in the fourth quarter. That was the difference in this one. But if we look at specifically going into the fourth quarter, the Chargers had a 4-point lead. 10 seconds in, they let up a 32-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes to Kelce. That gave Kansas City a 23-20 lead. A couple stops, punts, whatever you want to say. And then with 1:46 remaining, Joshua Palmer, 6-yard touchdown pass from Justin Herbert. That made it 27-23 in favor of the Chargers. But Travis Kelce, it only took the Chiefs a minute 35 to get down the field. 17-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes, 30-27. And that was the final score there. Herbert forcing it late, throwing the interception. So once again, the Chargers can't win a big game. Some questionable moves out of head coach Brandon Staley, something that we've seen many times with the Chargers. And the Chiefs, you walk away from this one thinking they're the best team in the NFL at 8-2. Patrick Mahomes, really, there just has not been enough talk about his strong play this year. He's already thrown for 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,200 yards. Those are numbers. You could conceivably see him getting to well over 40 touchdown passes this year. So really just doing a great job. And like I said, I feel definitely, they are in position to get to their, I believe it would be third Super Bowl in 4 years, which is quite the accomplishment. Obviously, time will tell, and I'm sure the Bills will have something to speak to that about. Not to mention the Jets if they get the quarterback situation under wraps, but it's hard to say that in a convincing fashion because it does not look good. But we do have one more game here this week, and it looks like Kyler Murray is going to yet miss another game for the Cardinals, who come in desperate need of a win at 4-6. And before saying Mahomes throwing 40 touchdowns, wow, that's a bite. Is it a bite before? I'm not, I'm not extremely certain about that. I mean, I think he does that in his sleep, and I'm sure you're probably just being sarcastic as Michael joins us, coffee in hand, like always.
Coffee in the trash.
Well, I mean, you can't blame him. I mean, it's good coffee. He's going to go through it, Renee. It's just law of averages, right? But last game of the week here, I mentioned the Cardinals 10-point home dogs here. Colt McCoy drawing another start. You look at the Niners, Christian McCaffrey has really played a big role for them. They won their last couple games. Jimmy G, not doing anything crazy, but doing what he's asked for. And his defense, his running game, really doing a nice job. Not to mention George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. There's just so many different places that he can go. So that's just worked out so well. So when I look at this game with a backup quarterback in it for Arizona, I know conventional wisdom, taking the double-digit favorite, that doesn't usually work out too well. But I really don't like this Cardinals team. The head coach, a backup quarterback, James Conner, I think he's powerful in terms of like a goal line running back. But I don't know if he has the burst, especially against a tough defense like the 49ers here. So I think this actually could be a blowout. I don't know if it'll be Dallas, Minnesota, but I guess what I see here is 31-13. So really not close. And that would 31-13. That would just go over the total and obviously cover for the Niners as they would move to 6-4. And I mean, I mentioned this to Tony before. I think in terms of the NFC, I don't know if there's a team that really matches up with the Niners well. I just think what they do with that zone rushing attack, I think it's going to be too much. They make smart decisions and they just have really good execution. So I think they handily win this one. And this one coming from Mexico City. So something different. Yet another international game. So I know the altitude there can make things a little crazy. But I don't think the Niners will have any trouble as we wrap up week 11. And it's crazy just to say that before we do have our 3 games on Thanksgiving. So really looking forward to that. Really,
what 3 games are on Thanksgiving again?
So it's going to be the Bills and the Lions. That's the first game. Giants at the Cowboys. That's the second game. And then the Vikings hosting the Patriots. That's the primetime game. But really, I think the game of the day will be between the Giants and the Cowboys. I mean, this is it for the Giants. Them and their fans, they've talked a big game here, but here's a game against a team that is probably more talented than you. It's a big spot, just in terms
yourself,
of
Barnes.
where you are in the standings. What
you said more talented than you.
Renee.
One man's opinion.
I feel like this is like Tony trying to like just
trying to rile you up all of a sudden.
Say
Look
something.
at this.
Yeah, exactly.
She wants some more sound bites, I think, from Barnes.
Yeah, Barnes. I want some more here.
Is that a bite? But yeah, I honestly think the Cowboys might embarrass them. All I'm saying, just watch out for it. I know I do get excited for a Giants loss, but it just seems like that's what we're set up for here. So
will you be asleep during this because of the turkey?
No. I usually make it through it. It's tough though. You gotta pace yourself.
I was about to ask you. I mean, what's your Thursday look like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the problem is the appetizers. I mean, the
They hit you
cheese,
hard, yeah.
the crackers, the pepperoni. How do you not fill up on that?
Charcuterie board.
Yeah, charcuterie board.
Butterboards.
Maybe some stuffed bread, but you got to pace yourself. Otherwise, by the time the main course is coming around, there's just not enough room. Let alone dessert.
By the time the good game comes up, you're snoozing on the couch.
Yeah, no, I usually make it through. I love but we will have the old football bonanza, as 3 games. I think, geez, at this point, it's probably been at least 10 years where they've done that. Traditionally, it was always a game in Dallas, game in Detroit, but they've had a rotating schedule to give every team a chance to host a Thanksgiving game. That's always a good time. So we'll circle back to that, and hopefully we'll get a competitive game to wrap up Week 11 tonight on ESPN, and we'll recap it with all of you guys tomorrow. But now it is time to go to the world of the National Hockey League.
Here's Matthews. Scores! Hat-trick goal!
My goodness, this is a great shot.
Big hit on the far side by McCarr! He flattens Jordan's skull! Oh my goodness! Gets the dunk right back. Terrified and robbed by Shesterkin. That's brilliant from Igor Shesterkin. It's a breakaway to win it in overtime. McDavid scores the winner in overtime.
Manny, were you ever a big hockey fan?
No, actually, the first time I ever even really watched and went to one was when I worked the finals this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Okay.
My first game was Avalanche versus them, and it was like a blowout.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I kind of fell in love.
Right. I mean, it's
fun.
How do you not give respect to these hockey players just for being able what they do at such a high speed, intensity level skating, though? It's hard enough to do it without skates on.
I go personally, it's soccer, hockey.
Yeah.
I really it's fast paced. You go and it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the closest thing that matches up to this to me, but it's this on steroids.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just the whole, because it didn't stopping on the ice. And I mean, it's just
seeing those guys skate. I can skate, I can stand up, and I can go around.
Yeah.
I can't stop. The on the dime turns that they do. I was just watching some kid, I think in Canada League, young kid came in. This play, he just went through everyone.
Maybe move your mic.
Put it right in. Everyone was losing their minds. It was on ESPN's TikTok or something.
It's how do you do that? How do you stay balanced?
How do you fight?
Renee, it looks like your burner accounts commented a couple times.
No. But if you'd like to, so if someone wants to check it out, hot photo of my sister.
Renee, you strike me as someone who would be a very good skater, no?
I used to want to be a figure skater.
Really?
I took classes. I could do some spins. I can skate backwards. But I also, just like Manny, I was always mesmerized by being able to run on ice. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would always literally just have to run into the wall to stop. I could not do the turns, but it's why I can't ski and snowboard and all of that.
Listen, man, some people are just not meant to do certain things, and I'm with you.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I am not allowed to do anymore, and I get it. And now I don't have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, Friday night skate back in the day, Shelton Rinks was a good time. But I think we're past it now. I'm good with just watching hockey. It's definitely exciting, and it was nice to see on Saturday. After last time out, just an embarrassing loss for the Rangers to come back and get a win, and it wasn't an easy win. So I mean, sure, you want to be positive. So you do say, a win is a win, and you were the better hockey team, and that's where you felt you were when you played the Kraken last time. But that was a 3-2 overtime loss. This one, a 2-1 win over the Sharks, and almost was a shutout. The Sharks, I think it was within the last minute, scoring a goal to make it 2-1. That was Logan Couture, a guy that Tony's been very high on. That was actually with 17 seconds left. So Shesterkin still looking for that first shutout of the season. Doesn't quite get it. But overall, I mean, he wasn't asked to do too much here. I mean, 22 saves, but you respect the win, of course. And as far as the goal scorers for the Rangers. Adam Fox actually had an empty netter, and that was about a minute 7 remaining. And then Julian Gauthier had the first goal of the third period. So no scoring in the first and second period. So, of course, there's a couple ways to look at this, and you have to give credit where credit is due. Reamer for San Jose, 41 of 42. So he had to defend 20 more shots than Igor Shesterkin. That's a pretty stark differential in terms of, two teams playing one another. But it was nice, let's stop the bleeding. There was obviously, they were off yesterday, off tonight, and then we'll return to the ice in LA against the Kings. So I think that's going to be yet another tight game. And, you would hope a couple of days off. And I'm just trying to see, because I know following that game, they are going to play Anaheim. I was just trying to see if that was a back-to-back game, because then, of course, we know that sets up Halak. But, it would be nice to get, 2 wins here before this West Coast trip is over. So those are back-to-back games. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I say still run Shesterkin out there tomorrow. Let's get another win. And then Anaheim, they're not a pushover, but obviously not one of the better teams. I'd rather, have my best goalie starting against the Kings, because I think they're formidable. They look like they're going to make the playoffs. And, after that Wednesday game in Anaheim, you do have a couple of days off. But as we've seen this year, unless it's playoffs, these goalies, they're just not going to play back-to-back games. But then it's a tough stretch, because it's Edmonton, then it's the Devils, then it's a home and home with Ottawa, and then on to Chicago and St. Louis. Both of those games at home before going to Vegas and Colorado. So an interesting stretch here for the Rangers. And I think the key is, offense, more offense early. I feel like, they're always scraping, always kind of, one of those you're biting your fingernail types of games. And I would like to see them, just set the tone more, where they're putting pressure on the other team instead of always having all the pressure on them to score. I think that puts them in a tough spot at times. And luckily, on Saturday, that didn't come back to bite, which is definitely nice, of course. So, just around the league, yesterday, always on Sundays during the NFL season, there's not a big slate. So there was actually only 2 games, yesterday. We saw the Blue Jackets at home, 5-3 over the Panthers. So they pick up the W there. And it's funny, me and Tony talked about Goudreau and how, it seems like it was a mistake on both sides. One, for them to bring him to go there, but goal and 2 assists, leading them to victory. I mean, that's all they could ask for. Panthers 9-8-2. So I don't know if it's, like we've mentioned many times, getting Huberdeau out of there, if that's hurt them. But whatever the case is, they're hovering around 500. The Penguins were really struggling. Seems like they've kind of hit their stride now. 5-3 over the Blackhawks. So they pick up their 9th victory of the season, and we saw Malkin and Crosby score. So it's just funny, all the years that go by, but yet they still seem to produce and get production from their veterans, guys that have been there before, guys that have hoisted that trophy, and they do it with a backup tender in Casey DeSmith. And this is why I get so frustrated with Halak. Every single time he's out there, we lose. And I look around the league, there's a bunch of competent backup goalies on other teams that are getting victories. So you would hope that our guy, and unfortunately, I think we'll see this week when he draws a start, conceivably against Anaheim, what he can do. But props to Pittsburgh for turning it around. I know Tony's pretty down on them, but I think once again, we'll see them in the middle of the pack at the bare minimum in this NHL playoff picture, specifically for the Eastern Conference. We do have a big slate today in the NHL. Unfortunately, No Rangers, though, but we will kind of just run it down here in a big game. And I know Michael's really excited for this one. The Devils hosting the Oilers. So obviously you think about the Oilers, all of the talent they have. They come in at 10-8. So once again, kind of a ho-hum start for them. But of course, the Devils, I mean, the hottest team in the league, 12-game winning streak is they try to make history and have the longest win streak in NHL history. This is definitely going to be a tough one. But with the off day yesterday, I would imagine Vanek, who has been in goal with Blackwood, nursing injury, I imagine he gets the start here. And it's funny, you would think about before the season, the influx of talent for the Oilers. You would look at this game and say, I just don't know, if New Jersey has the firepower. But now you look at it with the Kane injury and the Oilers really not playing inspired hockey. Hard to go against them. So I'm gonna say the Devils run it to 13 in a row here. 3-2 in overtime. Jesper Bratt, the game-winning goal. 16-3 Devils. Who would have thought that? Flames and Flyers, two teams, once again, and I'm sure the Goudreau loss is weighing heavily on the Flames here, but disappointing season so far. Flyers with Tortorella at times, the surprise of the league. Other times, kind of reverting back to their old ways. I think Calgary gets this one done though, 4-2. The Bruins, one of the best records in the league at 16-2 against the Lightning, and I think this is where they're finally due for a loss. They've simply just won too many in a row, and they're not going to just skate through the season, no pun intended. So I'm going to say Vasilevsky pitches the shutout, 2-0 Bruins at home. The Islanders and the Maple Leafs. So this is an interesting one. Tavares versus zone team. Islanders have been hot, but I like the way Marner and Tavares and the rest of this Toronto team, has been playing. So I think they're going to get the victory in this one. Let's call it 5-3. The Hurricanes at the Jets. I like Carolina in this one. The Jets, I think, at 10-5-1. Definitely playing over their head here. So I'm going to say the Hurricanes, let's say 4-2 over the Jets. And obviously the game that I always have circled on my list when the Rangers are off, the Coyotes at the Predators. Nashville minus 250 and no back-to-backs here. So I'd imagine Vejmelka starting. And I know the Predators have played better, but enough. I think Vejmelka, the shutout, 2-0 Coyotes. They need a win in the worst way. And I think both of their goals are courtesy of Clayton Keller. The Ducks at the Blues. The Blues have turned it around after a tough start. Ducks can't get out of their own way. Give me the Blues here, 3-0 over the Ducks. Avalanche at the Stars. I think, the Stars, an example here of a team playing over their head. I just don't think they're a playoff team here. So give me the Avalanche here. I'm going to say 6-3 over the Stars. I think they embarrassed them on the road. The Sharks at the Senators. I like the Sharks. The Senators aren't great. Neither are the Sharks, but Carlson, 11 goals, 17 assists. Me and Tony have been riled to see that. So give me the Sharks here. I'm going to say 6-3 over the Senators. Last game of the night, upset of the night, Vegas Golden Knights, hottest team in the league here, minus 140 favorites in Vancouver, Canada. Sometimes the travel, a little tricky. Eichel, maybe an off game here. Give me the Canucks 3-2 in overtime with the upset. And that wraps up another night in the National Hockey League. What a start to the season we've had. Just unbelievable. And really, other than that, just wanted to give credit, the RSM Classic, we saw that in Georgia over the weekend. And Adam Svensson, 19 under par, wins it. Excuse me, 2 shots clear of Thagala, of Harmon, of Taran. So Svensson gets it done at the RSM as we kind of round out this unofficial fall season and really going to get into the thick of things after the new year. So we will keep an eye out for that. But really, that's where we're at right now. Hopefully we get a good Monday Night Football game, not to mention some good hockey games. And that's what we got, Renee. And I know you're pumped for the World Cup to continue on. Any bold predictions?
Bold predictions?
Yeah. Any big upsets? Give me something.
Well, I mean, yeah, I haven't seen so far just some pretty good games. Actually, but opposed to this game, I was gonna say this game's kind of like a lame.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have occurred in the first two games. Like, it's starting off very interesting.
Will Qatar score a goal in any of their games?
Qatar lost 2-0 in the opener.
First
game.
Host team to lose the first game.
Yep.
Never
Not
happened.
good.
but Fur thinks the UK will win the World Cup.
What do you guys think about that?
Someone in the I filled out one of those free brackets yesterday, and I actually ended up having England go all the way this year.
All right. So,
and after seeing them win 6-2,
yeah, I have a weird feeling about them.
I feel comfortable, but they have to go against USA next, and we're going to talk about that today because we have a show coming up
at 1 p.m.
We're going to be talking World Cup.
Yeah, so we know everybody's fired up for that. So definitely stay tuned for Renee and Manny, the World Cup synopsis.
Yeah.
1 Eastern. Any good, like, is there any like marquee matchup today? Like
today, US plays their first game today.
Against who again?
Wales.
Wales. Okay.
So it should be a winnable game.
Yep.
We'll see this nice young USA team come out and try to get out of the group stage after not qualifying last World Cup. So they're coming in with a vengeance.
Yeah. For sure.
So definitely stay tuned for that. But once again, as we say, what a day, what a life. Really appreciate everybody tuning in and continuing to comment, like, and subscribe. The archives on the YouTube page, Tony, Michael, Renee in costume, not to mention some other great content we got out there for you. The merch, downtimetv.com. Everybody enjoy the day, enjoy the games, and we will see you mañana.
Hey guys, Tony here from Downtime TV checking in. I want to thank all our fans out there who's been liking, subscribing, sharing our content. You guys are the best. You guys are our bloodline. You make us love what we do.